yeah, we'll just kind of preview the games that are coming up, and then after that, we will share the games that we want to watch the most. So it starts Friday night. Louisville plays NC State. Louisville favored by 3.5. Sneaky big matchup in the ACC. Utah is at Oregon State Friday night. Big Pac-12 matchup. Oregon State actually favored by 2.5, which I thought was interesting. Coming off a loss to Wazoo last week. Cincinnati is at BYU. BYU favored by 3. We get into Saturday. We have a rivalry to start things off. Florida is at Kentucky. Kentucky favored by 2.5. Texas. Do you want to talk about that one before we move on? Should we back up to Utah and Oregon State? Sorry, I was just kind of rolling through these, or should I just keep going and then we talk about whichever ones we're going to talk about later?
I think just go on through them and we can just select a few that we're interested in.
Okay, I'm just going to read off all of the major games, then we'll kind of backtrack it. I mentioned A&M against Arkansas in Arlington. A&M favored by 6.5. USC goes to Colorado. USC favored by 21.5. Clemson goes to Syracuse. Clemson favored by 6.5. Baylor goes to UCF. UCF favored by 11.5. Kansas is at Texas. Texas favored by 17. Houston at Texas Tech. Texas Tech favored by 9.5. Indiana at Maryland. Maryland a 14.5 point favorite. Illinois at Purdue. Purdue favored by 1.5. Georgia at Auburn. Georgia favorite there, 15.5 points. Michigan at Nebraska. Michigan favored by 17.5. LSU at Ole Miss, ranked on a ranked matchup here in the SEC West. LSU favored by 2.5. Oregon at Stanford, kind of an interesting rivalry, although very lopsided right now. Oregon favored by 26.5. Iowa State at Oklahoma. Oklahoma favored by 19.5. Michigan State at Iowa. That could be ugly. Iowa favored by 11.5. South Carolina at Tennessee. Tennessee an 11.5 point favorite. Notre Dame goes to Duke. Notre Dame favored by 5.5. West Virginia at TCU. TCU favored by 11.5. Alabama at Mississippi State. Bama favored by 15.5. And then Washington at Arizona. Washington favored by 17.5. What grabs your attention, Ashton? Which games do you want to talk about?
So Utah, Oregon State. Utah did not look good. That's the Friday night game, right? Oregon State drops a couple of spots with the loss to Wazoo. It's a difficult game. It's one that we didn't even really talk about. I honestly did not even get to watch it because it was in such a unique time spot where there were so many other. Yeah, well, there were so many good games like just sandwiched in there with it that like it was stands to reason that like we just kind of skim over it. But Oregon State's a good football team. I want to see if Cam Rising's playing. I also want to see how DJU rebounds, back from a tough loss. It's in Oregon, right? Like home game for the Beavers. I think Oregon State wins outright. Like I think they just go. I know they're favored actually, even though like they've coming off a loss and Utah is undefeated. I think Oregon State will win that game. So it's not going to be in one of my locks, but I just have just a sneaky suspicion about a bounce back week for the Beavers.
Yeah, They came back late against Wazoo, but I was a little disappointed by their defense. I was on my second screen all evening, so I didn't get to watch it like extensively, but kept peeking over. And throughout the first half, every time I peek at the screen, Washington State was scoring another touchdown. So, good matchup there. Definitely an opportunity for both teams to make a statement. Florida at Kentucky. Were you interested in Kentucky being favored by 2.5? Like, is that just because they're home and like they they're undefeated, but
4-0. Yeah. No, it is. And they've kind of taken care of business. Obviously, they're one of only 3 SEC teams that are still undefeated after 4 weeks. Wow. Florida had the tough loss on the road, right? To Utah. So, they're an undefeated SEC team. That's okay. Florida's good. Kentucky's also good. This game matters more than what you think it does. Like if Kentucky wins this ball game, actually, let me not even say that. The winner of this ball game will really put themselves into a good situation going into a potential Georgia matchup. They both still have to play Georgia yet, right? The battle for second place in the East is wide open after Georgia. This game matters more than you think it does. This is one of where you get to the end in the end of the season. I think both of these teams will be ranked at the end of the season. Yeah, this is if Florida can bounce all the way back from that early season loss and beat Kentucky and Tennessee like what they already did. That's a huge coup for Napier. That's a lot of positive momentum for them. That's going to be one of my games to watch. I think it's really interesting. The line you mentioned, Kentucky by 2.5. I think that's about right. Like I think Kentucky needs to be favored in this game at home for them. I think it's going to be really fascinating to watch.
Texas A&M and Arkansas. This is a fun matchup. For some reason, they always play in Arlington, which is a little weird, but I think it was last year where Arkansas was kind of in control until they had a fumble at the goal line and A&M returns it for a touchdown. And that, A&M couldn't score offensively last year, so they had to do it defensively and they win that game.
Right.
Any reason to think Arkansas can get some revenge this year?
I think so. I mean, KJ's pretty good. Arkansas could have easily won that game against LSU this past weekend. KJ Jefferson, the slander that guy gets, everyone's just dumping all over SEC quarterbacks, bad SEC quarterbacks. And you're right. Like, I'll agree with you for the most part, but leave KJ Jefferson off of that conversation because that guy's legitimately really, really good. He would start for most teams in America today. I think that I think he's a matchup nightmare. Like he's a problem, a really big dual threat that's really accurate with the ball. So no, I've been impressed with him. A&M kind of just took care of business quietly over Auburn this past weekend. Wigman was hurt. Max Johnson came in. You remember Max Johnson?
Right.
The LSU transfer comes in, throws a touchdown to his younger brother, who's also on A&M. Yeah, great for them, I guess. No, it's an entertaining matchup. It's not going to be one of my 5 to watch, but it is. It's a fun game though. Nonetheless, it's always entertaining.
Right. When A&M plays Alabama, we're taking the under, right?
No, I'm not sure. I'm not.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see what that one is.
It might be like 38.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Kansas at Texas. This one's kind of fun. Texas took care of them solidly last year after several years of Kansas really, I don't know, like beating Texas a few times and always being a pain in their side. Has Texas turned over a new leaf? Kansas is undefeated coming into this matchup.
Yeah.
Has Texas figured out their Kansas problem good and like for all?
Not willing to go there yet. I think Kansas, this is a 17-point line. 17-point line. Kansas is a problem. Like I think this is where a regular Texas team would fall. They would lose to Kansas at home. They just would. Kansas is a good football team. We're not saying that Kansas is just, they're going to sneak up and not be a good team. Kansas is ranked. Kansas is 4-0. This is a game that Texas in a normal year would lose. Let's see if they come out and handle business against the Jayhawks. The dynamic in Austin starts to change. Like they're not Texasing anymore. Like they're actually beating the teams. They're not playing down to competition. Like Texas is a better football team than Kansas. That does not matter. It doesn't seem in previous years. Let's see. Let's just wait and see.
This is not a game I would come close to touching.
No,
the line.
Correct. Correct.
Nothing would shock me here. Do you want to talk about Georgia at Auburn? Bit of a rivalry there for you.
I think it's interesting. That line is really low. Georgia only favored by 14.5, and Auburn literally can't throw the football. Auburn cannot throw the football right now. Peyton Thorne has not been him for Auburn.
No.
I might go to this game. This might be one of those games where I wake up like that Saturday morning, and if tickets keep dropping like they kind of are, like I might go. Like that's a possibility. I'm not sure. I'm leaving it on the table. That one could be sneaky close. Like Auburn at home, man. Like there's something that goes on at Jordan Hare. There really is. They have something, a whole other thing going on there that like this could be a close game. But like Georgia could also blow them out. Like it's something it's worth going to, not betting it, staying away from it at 14.5. I don't know what's going to happen, but Auburn's not been very good. So yeah, of course there's a possibility that they come out and upset Georgia. That's just kind of how things go in the SEC, I guess. So yeah, worth watching. That's worth your watch.
Speaking of the SEC, if you want to get a little tighter matchup, you got LSU at Ole Miss. LSU 2.5-point favorite on the road here. What do you think?
This one is my top in my top 5. I think this one's fascinating. LSU, since that Florida State loss, has played really good. Jaden Daniels has turned it on. They have had elite wide receiver play from the Tigers. So LSU is finding something. It was they had a disappointing week 1, right? They have since found something there. They need to prove it. They need to prove it this week. They need to beat Ole Miss and set up that grudge match against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. LSU really needs this one. Again, not betting it at all. I do not like, a good home dog is a home underdog. That's always, it seems like it's almost always the right side to be on. And in that case, it'd be Ole Miss here. But yeah, I'm just kind of staying away from it because I do think LSU is a better football team, but it is on the road for them. So just those kind of cancel out.
Last year, South Carolina pretty much ended Tennessee's season. They all of a sudden couldn't be stopped offensively. Now Tennessee's favored by 11.5. It's at Tennessee this year. I still can't figure Tennessee out, by the way. But what do you expect out of this game?
No clue. Not sure yet. We have 2 really talented quarterbacks in Spencer Rattler, who's played really well, and Joe Milton, who had a really nice bounce back game after the bad appearance against Florida. Super talented quarterbacks. Which one of them are functional? We need you to continue to be functional in SEC play. So it's a night game. It's in Knoxville. That place is going to be going bananas. That's going to be an elite atmosphere to be at. So it's going to be fun. It's definitely going to be fun. South Carolina continues to kind of surprise since that they again got beat early against North Carolina, neutral site, right? South Carolina has rebounded and played well since then. They have played well. Played Georgia close. And then blitzed Mississippi State over the weekend. So South Carolina also is playing pretty good football right now.
Right. Okay, college game day is actually going to Duke this Saturday. Notre Dame is going to Duke. Notre Dame favored by 5.5. A lot to learn in this game about both teams. Duke undefeated. Obviously, we know about the big win against Clemson in week 1. Notre Dame coming off just a heartbreaking loss to Ohio State. And we're going to learn how legit Duke is, and we're also going to learn how Notre Dame can bounce back from that just emotional game. Last year, Ohio State beat Notre Dame twice, essentially. They did not respond well the next week. If they don't bring it this week, they're going to lose to Duke. Duke is pretty good, I think. Mike Elko is a really good head coach. Riley Leonard is a good quarterback. What do you think, Ashton?
I feel better about this one for Notre Dame, considering that they lost. I think if Notre Dame beats Ohio State, if that guy actually holds on to the interception in the last 2 minutes against Ohio State, Notre Dame probably goes and loses to Duke on the road. That's kind of, but they did lose. So they're, you in some sense stay grounded, I guess. It's not as big of a letdown spot. I do think they'll still struggle. I don't think Notre Dame will play as well. Unless they had, if they had played a cupcake instead of Ohio State, I think, you're liking their chances a little bit better. So I think that's fair. I think the line is about right. 5.5 points. I'd be kind of scared to be betting Notre Dame in this one, to be honest with you.
Stay away. Absolutely. For me. Notre Dame is a little stretch here. They got Duke this Saturday evening. The following Saturday evening, they play Louisville, who has looked good this year. And the Saturday after that, which I'm sure will also be an evening game, they play USC. So, kind of a rough 4-week stretch here, and we'll see how they respond to adversity. Any thoughts on Bama, Mississippi State? I mean,
no.
They're just going to sit on them, right?
Yep, correct.